and 100 miles away, who's as close as my hand? Distance couldn't keep us apart because we're one man with one heart.
Good evening, Learning Center students, friends from all around the world, people who I don't have any idea who you are, but to whom we are all connected. Welcome to the first live show of the Kabbalah channel in the history of the world. This is a momentous event in our hearts because it's a place, not a physical place, well, I guess you can see it and you can hear it, but it's a place of a dawning of a completely new quality as a reality. This is our connection with each other. The kind of connection that we long for in the bottom of our heart. Maybe we don't even understand what that is that we long for. Well, of course, the Learning Center students have got some kind of inkling now because the point in the heart is awakened and start to understand what was that that was driving me when I was 5? What drove me to seek something else when I was 18? What is making me tune into this Kabbalah channel right now? What am I seeking for? And it's that connection. You're watching Kab TV Live. In the lesson that you just completed, you looked a little more deeply into the question of freedom, free will. Where does it exist? And one of the problems that we have when we start to approach this question is that to begin with, we think we have free will in everything. We don't recognize actually what we're connected to, what we actually are. So when we learn about an environment like this, or when Bala Salam speaks about connecting to the environment as a movement towards freedom, that's free choice, we still tend to think about it, of course, from where we began, how we think about things as we make this transition from our mechanical nature to something above that nature. It's not simply that we put ourselves in a group of people. This is how it appears to us. And we certainly do make those kinds of motions and efforts. But what we are doing inside is recognizing that we actually are much bigger than we thought we were. We are redefining, actually, our reality. Is it me alone out here joining into some sort of an environment that acknowledges this desire that I truly have? Or is it that I am already not just me? I already was created in a way that I'm only now beginning to recognize that this thing that we call an external environment is really just the rest of the creature, the acknowledgement of that greater system and how we are all totally connected into that system. It's not even connection. It simply is that force that brings and cares for life, but I don't identify with it as an individual. As a broken little part of everything, it's very difficult to see the system. The environment is the expansion of that desire and making it a reality in our lives. Doing things from that sort of central point from which we can begin to see, that point in the heart where we begin to see the vastness, the unlimitedness of what we really are. And that's not something that's in our created nature, not in our little will to receive, not in the mechanics of what we normally do when we're run by the starting point in our journey. That part that's opposite to that complete interconnection. And in the whole system that we are longing to connect with, and for which we begin to study Kabbalah, which tells us how can I become more and more sensorily aware, that is in the sixth sense, in a higher sense. How do I become aware of this greater reality with which I'm already connected? And we'd start to look at a vast and beautiful system, and within that system, the one part that seems to be holding everything up is really that little separated part. The system itself, that's what we're trying to reach. But where we are, that's what we call broken. And we're trying to fix that one part in the entire system that's broken. And that one part that's broken, well, what is that?
Only we are broken. The poet John Donne once said, "No man is an island, each is a part of the whole." In fact, we are part of an integrated system, invisible at the physical level. In our world, nothing is really broken, except for the connection between us. The animals are not broken, although some are endangered. The Earth has been relatively unchanged for a few billion years now, healing itself whenever necessary. But humans have been behaving more and more like islands, when really we are more like cells in a body. Can you imagine what would happen if the cells in your body behaved like islands? When we start acting like good cells, with the intention to do good to the other parts of the body, we will reveal the hidden connection between all its parts. It is in this connection that all the good that can exist in this world is manifested. And all the parts of the world that we thought were broken will be revealed to be in their perfect state. The end.
And a sudden end it is. Yeah, you know, in Toronto right now, they're setting up for the meeting of the G20. And this is attracting a lot of protest. It's people, mostly young people, who feel some kind of a really deep dissatisfaction with their situation, what life is like. Feel that the people who apparently are running the world are trying to do something to us that is making our life worse. And these guys, in the estimation of the protesters, are the cause of this. And now you can't really blame the protesters for having the feelings that they have, because it's true, this generation feels very clearly that the things that were promised in the past we're not really getting them. And even when we do get them, we don't really want them anymore, and we don't feel filled by it. So something's wrong. And then we look around and we see that things are not going very well. And they also see that there is some other really large movement going on, that there's a kind of a connection happening, but we don't like that connection. It's a globalization, and it's causing a great deal of fear, right? We're afraid because we're functioning really inside of the mechanics of the will to receive, of that what we want to receive. We can't see, we can't imagine, we cannot even understand or accept this force, which is actually a natural force coming towards us from nature that's intending to develop us. We don't feel it that way because we're completely and totally unprepared for this globalization. And we know, and you know from your study, that these leaders, so-called leaders, they don't really lead anything because they're also working within exactly the same system that we are, have no freedom to make choices other than what nature pushes us to. The choice is really simply, do they agree or do they not agree? The illusion is that they make decisions, but actually they're simply riding the force of development, because nobody can really escape that except by an alteration. And until we begin to make that alteration, we really are pretty much animals.
There are billions of galaxies in the observable universe, and each of them contains hundreds of billions of stars. In one of these galaxies, orbiting one of these stars, lies a little blue planet. And this planet is run by a bunch of monkeys. Now these monkeys don't think of themselves as monkeys. They don't even think of themselves as animals. In fact, they love to list all the things that they think separate them from the animals. Opposable thumbs, self-awareness. They use words like Homo erectus and Australopithecus. You say tomato, I say tomato. They're animals, all right. They're monkeys. Monkeys with high-speed digital fiber optic technology, but monkeys nevertheless. I mean, they're clever. You've got to give them that. The pyramids, skyscrapers, phantom jets, the Great Wall of China, that's all pretty impressive. For a bunch of monkeys. Monkeys whose brains have evolved to such an unmanageable size that it's now pretty much impossible for them to stay happy for any length of time. In fact, they're the only animals that think they're supposed to be happy. All of the other animals can just be. But it's not that simple for the monkeys. You see, the monkeys are cursed with consciousness, and so the monkeys are afraid. So the monkeys worry. The monkeys worry about everything, but mostly about what all the other monkeys think. Because the monkeys desperately want to fit in with the other monkeys. Which is pretty hard to do, because a lot of the monkeys hate each other. This is really what separates them from the other animals. These monkeys hate. They hate monkeys that are different, monkeys from different places, monkeys who are a different color. You see, the monkeys feel alone. All 6 billion of them. Some of the monkeys pay another monkey to listen to their problems. The monkeys want answers, and the monkeys know they're going to die, so the monkeys make up gods, and then they worship them. Then the monkeys start to argue over whose made-up god is better. Then the monkeys get really pissed off, and this is usually when the monkeys decide that it's a good time to start killing each other. So the monkeys wage war. The monkeys make hydrogen bombs.
And the monkeys protest. They get together and say, we have to change this world. We have to make things work in a very different way. And we have to tell the G20 and our leaders that they've got to change, but we don't know exactly what they've got to change. But they're bad and we're good. And I don't really know what to do about this, but change something now and then see, the problem is that things do have to change. And the problem is globalization. But what is globalization? It is the fact that we are interconnected, but we don't like it. We hate it. We are not ready to accept it. And yet, as you learned in the article, the freedom, that is actually where the fulfillment, the connection to a higher, more encompassing type of life, what we call spirituality, where that really exists, and we're just on the edge of that. And these protesters are really the generation that are going to make this kind of change, but it doesn't happen on the level of outcomes. It only happens if people change something inside of them. If the intention to think and care about others is the starting point within every single person, then globalization works. Then no leaders do anything that hurts anybody, and neither do we. This is what it takes, and this is why we feel so unhappy and so unsatisfied, and why you're here studying. Because unlike the protesters, who hopefully soon will awaken, you already know that we have to change ourselves first. Because globalization may seem like a huge universe, but it's really a singular point within the creature that touches every other place. And that singular point is the desire to connect, the desire to love. We have a question here. Oh, I want to credit that monkey clip. That is "What We Are" by Ernest Klein. Very cute clip. And there's a question here from Rodney Gray. The monkey clip is great. What's the link to the complete version? Oh, like there was only another 10 seconds, Rodney. You can find it on YouTube. It's called, you can look it up under We Are Monkeys or What We Are. And we've got a video question from a Learning Center student here, so let's take a look at that.
I'm trying to understand what freedom of choice really means. I mean, if I'm completely under the influence of the laws of nature, then what is the essential difference that separates man from the rest of the universe? Thank you.
Man is not separated from the rest of the universe. We separate ourselves, and that thing that causes us to feel separation is the reliance on our created nature and our disagreement with the force that's developing us. That's the thing that causes our suffering. That resistance causes us to function under the control either of the Creator, or that force that pushes us from behind, or may even pull us forward by enticing us with ideas of freedom and pleasure and closeness to divinity, or we are manipulated by our own egoism. So the difference is that animals and the rest of nature, they're not like that. They function completely according to the law of nature, which is to completely serve every other aspect. We have another question here.
Hi, Tony. My name is Doug from Indianapolis, and I wanted to ask a question about this freedom of will. Over the course of my life, I've been involved in a lot of different causes, environmental causes, politics, and is freedom of will just what I want to happen? I mean, I've wanted a lot of things to happen, including hitting the lotto, that never seemed to come true. We don't have a clean environment. How is a freedom of will for spiritual things any different than any of the other things that I've wanted to happen?
How is freedom of will in spiritual things different from anything else that I wanted to have happen? Everything else that we wanted to have happen before we come to the point where we have this point in the heart, this is not a choice. It's not something that we actually want. It's something that we're operated on from above. I mean, this is just part of a mechanism, just like a remote control car that you can point. It bumps into this, it will go here. Bumps into there, it'll go there. It's just looking for pleasure, and when we feel pain, we go some other place. The difference is that in spirituality, there is a conscious involvement, an agreement, a choice to be like that force that's developing us. And if we want things to change, we have to understand that change is not a qualitative thing. It's not a quantitative thing. It's a change of heart. It's a quality. We have to become like the force of nature if we really want to change.
I was very affected by the 60s and Woodstock and that whole movement, and they were able to bring everyone together, and I didn't know what to do once everybody got together. I thought that once everyone got together that something would just happen by itself, and it usually didn't.
Change is more than a new president. Change is more than fixing wildlife or nature. Change is us connecting and revealing that force of nature.
Every day I'm hoping that we can get to a place where we can really feel fulfillment and take care of each other.
It's an internal change. It's a complete shift, a shift that's so great that you can't even imagine how great it is, but you can't stop thinking about it, and it's beyond anything material.
2, 3, chicka boom. Change. sure I try. All night long I sing and cry. Give me love before I die. Who wants change? I want change. Who wants change? I want change. A person feels troubles and he's led to a book. Many months go by till he can hear what he took. My baby does, and he doesn't know why. Nature pushes him to grow, but a man has to try. Who wants change? I want change. Who wants change? I want change. I used to give to get. I want to get to give. I want to get to give. I used to give to get. I want to get to give. I want to get to give. Lure me forward, carried on a stick. A man thinks with his head, a man thinks with his dick. My desire grows, I'm all full of spunk. I'm a spiritual warrior, not a celibate monk. Who wants change? I want change. Who wants change? I want change. Doesn't matter if you're wise or not. Doesn't matter if you're cool or hot. Let each one come, each one with his style. World War III is going out of style. Look out. Who wants change? I want change. 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 All right.
Where else? What other group of people, what other group of friends joins together anywhere else in the world on a constant basis, day to day to day, for one purpose only, that we would be able to achieve this change, this change in consciousness, this peace, this whatever you want to call it, this next level for humanity. Who else is playing this game? This is a beautiful game. This is the environment. This is an intention. It's a feeling. It's a shared desire between all of us. Who else is playing this game besides you and a few tens of thousands of people all over the world who are in exactly the same thought with you right now? All of your friends at the Learning Center, all of the people in the World CLE, all of the people who study on a daily basis, who work here in our station. You see folks over there? Want to wave? It's a room full of friends who are all playing this game of connection, love, and peace. And we have a question from Margie who's saying, will we ever get to the point where we will change? Yeah, we're already at that sort of tipping point of positive change, because there are people like you, thousands upon thousands of people like you, who are learning a real method, not like what happened in the 60s where, yeah, we want peace. But here is the technology. What you're learning is how we actually make that connection. I want to make a connection right now with a great friend. Ooh, where is he now? What is this thing here? I got to go back to my... There we are. To Monty, who is... You know this guy. He's the head moderator in the Learning Center, and he covers all of the different semesters. I'm going to try to make that connection now. I see a smiling face, but it's a still face. Okay. And I now hear something. Monty, how are you?
I'm great, Tony. How are you?
Great. I'm excited. This is our inaugural show, inauguration of the channel, inauguration of the big game, where we play for love, for keeps. I wanted to ask you, you work with us, with the group, and you do all kinds of stuff every day. Your mind is always on it. You're thinking about people's questions, what they actually are asking, and all that. But can you cast your mind back to where you were a new Learning Center student? What? Uh-oh, folks, this sounds scary to me.
So bad.
What I want to know is what's the change like? I mean, it really is sort of dimensional, right? And I'm not talking about dementia. I mean it's like big it's big change that happens in the way that a person sees, right? Tell me a little bit about what that process is like.
It's a lot of things. It's confusing.
Yeah.
It's pleasurable. It's wonderful. It's a process that's not just limited to one part of yourself, the part you've been referring to your whole life before Kabbalah. It's not just a change in that part of you. It's an addition. There's a dimension of yourself that you become more aware of, more attuned to, and it's just beautiful. You realize that you're in this process. It's going to go who knows where, and you're 100% all for it.
There's a whole aspect of the change that happens to people that's really practical, that has to do with what they were studying in the Learning Center tonight, which is the group, the connection to people. We have very different ideas about love when we start studying, and what does this connection to other people, to actually playing this game for real, as though it was as though it were the real purpose in life, where do you find that kind of love that we hope for?
Well, plain and simple, the short story is that you find it in the group. The group is coaching you the whole time. They're coaching you through your thoughts and your connections, and the more that you try and want to be with them, you find all kinds of assistance in the friends. You come to realize how desperately you need them, how desperately you need to love them, and how on your own you can't.
Well, we don't feel that we can't when we start. I mean, when we start, we certainly feel that we can, or we wouldn't start, right?
Exactly.
But how does it? What about a virtual student? Maybe it's unclear to them what group is. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this channel and trying to create something that shows people the relevance of all of this, the reality of it, and so they could feel it as a game, you know? Yeah. What kind of things do you see people go through when they start their questioning on the forum? What sort of changes do you track in people? I mean, simply.
Wow.
Yeah.
Initially, people tend to approach Kabbalah with what they think it is and what they've learned elsewhere, and basically with the attempt to validate or confirm whatever they think they already know. This is a normal phase for everybody, and some progress through it quicker than others. But yeah, that's usually the first phase that people go through, trying to confirm all the things that are of interest, not necessarily the direction that Kabbalah wants to take us all, but there's some things we have to get out the way, and that's usually what beginning students go through.
So they go through a kind of a process of elimination. They try to...
Absolutely.
And then what happens to a person?
Then they start, usually what happens is there's a phase where students start to become frustrated. They realize that what they thought they wanted isn't the direction of the goal, that they're not going to get it, that there's something these teachers and these moderators and these friends in the group are trying to promote. They realize that they have to want that instead. And sometimes it's a tumultuous time. but they come around eventually.
Yeah, well, I mean, so listen, folks. I mean, you're not the only one. What you're describing here, Monty, is really a kind of a process that seems like it's on the outside for a person. I like this, I don't like it. It's this thing about, oh, this hurts, I'm going over here. And then we begin to see that this is actually, maybe this is part of the method. How do I incorporate these things that I'm going through? And what has that got to do with what my desire actually is? You know?
Yeah, people start to challenge themselves.
Uh-huh.
First, they start off challenging all the things they think are exterior to them, and then they realize, I have to challenge myself, my preconceptions, my notions, and my way of thinking. Then the wisdom gradually starts to open up for them more and more.
Uh-huh. We have a lot of stuff, actually, for people to get connected to now and to be able to go through this process in a lot of different ways, huh? There's the Unity Day that's coming up. There's a big mega congress that's coming up. There's this channel, and this allows people to play this game really pretty much on their terms. You know, to taste it like that, but hold the intention, go in here, what am I looking for, and go in and play the game with a lot of people. Yeah. You saw the Unity. You were part of Unity Day. Tell us a little bit about that. What did you see?
Wow. Well, I was partially involved with the coordinators that helped set that thing up. And from the organizational level, I saw a lot of work, love, and concern for Learning Center students actually go into it. From the side of the local groups, which I'm also in, I saw people rally in a way that they didn't think were possible. All of a sudden, the importance of unity. However they understood it, they just realized they had to come with others, come together with others.
So what you saw, so the thing that impressed you was not so much the event itself, but what people were doing in themselves in order to make the event happen. That it was like on not the event, but the intent.
It was huge, the preparation and that self-confrontation. I don't think everyone knew exactly what was drawing them forward, but they know before it, and beautiful things happen.
So when we have events like that, you know, it really gives people working in those events the opportunity to play the game at a deeper level, because we're working with other people, and we clash with them, and we begin to see, do I care about them? Do I really want to connect over this clash and all of that? And it's a beautiful process, and it is a beautiful game. And the end game of this is the goal of actually loving another as myself. I want to thank you for the call, Monty. Great as always.
Thank
I love
you.
your smiling face. Brings me up, man.
Likewise. Hello, everybody.
Bye-bye, Monty. We're going to go to one of our shows. This is a show that really talks about, is there a conspiracy in the world? Who really runs the world? And where does change come from? Don't go away, because we're going to be back right after that. So here it is.
What do things like Freemasonry and secret societies have to do with Kabbalah?
Well, I don't know. All I know is this. Throughout human history, Kabbalah, has had 3,500 years of history. It came from ancient Babylon. And many teachings and views and all kinds of methods wanted to connect themselves, to tie themselves with Kabbalah, because nobody knows what Kabbalah is. But they all want to say that they're borrowing from it, that they're drawing their sources from it, and then from that they evolved. Freemasons are the same, and the same applies to other teachings. The question is this: do these people have a source of power that is beyond our nature, that can change them and bring them to the opposite degree from the current one? Now they're all egoistic, just like everyone else. born in our world, only thinking about how to use the world, do they have the strength to invert themselves? Or is it only
A
imagination?
lot of the principles of these secret societies are to unite around sharing these secret methods to control
right,
the
about
world. I'm not going
beauty and all
to control nature, control the forces of nature, control the systems of nature. A lot of these secret societies, that's exactly what they do.
Controlling is even more egoistic.
Well,
So if you're talking about control, so they want to rule, control, or do they want to do good to the
no,
world?
but they're taking the principles of Kabbalah that speak of a spiritual system, a very precise spiritual system, and they adopt this.
Which is what? These systems are all about bestowal, giving. Do they too have the same goal? Are they actually realizing it?
You know what? A lot of people don't know what the goal is. That's the thing. They're suspicious of their goal, but they do borrow the sephirot, the paths. They claim the way to get to a higher state of consciousness in order to control things. They still are using the primary fundamental principles of Kabbalah, left line, right line. All of this stuff is used to control. Can it not be used to control this level of nature?
To control, it's totally wrong. And the fact that they took Kabbalah, definitions of Kabbalah like left, right, middle, and Sperot, it doesn't mean a thing.
Can I study Kabbalah in order to control others?
The question is, how, with what can you control? Or with your ego or with an alien force which you can draw from an opposite world, from the spiritual world onto you, so it corrects you, and then you will see everything in the opposite way, in a spiritual way, if you change your nature. You can't control our world by a spiritual force. Spirituality is not about control, it's about giving, loving. Control is ego, corporeality.
So all these systems that exist in this sea of egoism, they aren't even able to control the system within the system? You need this alien force. We need something beyond us.
Yes. Yes. First of all, nothing works in our world except that force which changes us gradually and brings us closer to spirituality. And if we want to achieve that, we have to draw ourselves that force so it affects us even more powerfully, strongly. But controlling the world just like that, it's impossible. Look at history. Who's ever controlled?
Well, no, speaking of history, I mean, there is countless instances of people that claim to have secrets or secret wisdom that are in positions of power where you have running threads throughout the entire Western world that lead back to places like Babylon and ancient Mesopotamia. And these supposedly still are using the same principles, very similar principles today. I mean, could you say even something like Talmudic law, which I understand would be a Kabbalistic text?
Of course, all of our teachings come from Babylon.
Okay.
All of them. The question is, which of them is a genuine wisdom, genuine means that we can use to change ourselves and the world? Do they change anything?
Okay, now you're talking about changing yourself. And some of these secret societies do talk about building, I mean, Freemasonry's building a better man. You know, the new man, the enlightened man, the better man. But they are still using these.
How do you see that it happens to them? By what? By what force do they change themselves?
They use Freemasonry, and a lot of these systems use what they call unconscious archetypes through symbology and ritual to awaken parts of themselves that are left dormant. This is what they say, and they, again, have been throughout history very influential and very powerful. And these archetypes and symbols they use, they draw from what you're saying are Kabbalistic texts. The Torah, the Talmud.
So that's the problem.
Okay, what's the problem?
That's the problem. They're using symbols from Kabbalah.
Okay.
But only the symbols. They're not using the force that Kabbalah enables you to use, to draw from the spiritual world and through it to change human nature. And they're not using the force. They're only taking symbols from books. That's it.
But they share the same text. They share the same
Yes.
customs, and they share the same erroneous conclusions that they've drawn out of the same book. These all come. And
True,
everybody's got a
true.
different opinion. And they're all fighting amongst each other about their different opinions. So where's the codex? Where's the right way of looking at this book? Who has it? You say when you look at the book, it seems different to you than it would to somebody else. How shall I rightly look at this book?
How do we rightly look at the book of the system, the life that we live? How do we understand where we are? What is the real news of the day? Is it what is happening with the G20? Is it the oil spill? Is it any of these things? The real news of the day is where we are in our development. Where are we according to nature's plan? Where are we according to the thought of creation and its desire to develop us towards complete fulfillment? That's what study is. That's what the lesson that you were in about an hour ago is, and that's what the morning lesson is. Now, the reason that the goal of the Learning Center curriculum is to allow a person to have enough preparation in the concepts and in the kinds of changes, initial changes, that need to happen in a person, so that you're able to be part of the morning lesson where we delve completely into that connection between people and in the thoughts of the text at the same time, seeking that we attract what we call the light. That is, that we willingly ask for this force to develop us, and that we understand that this law, this general law of the universe, which is whole, completely interconnected, constantly loving and only loving, that our own inner quality will be revealed to us in that work. And the real news of the day is what happens to the creature that appears like a group of people, a group of desires, studying in this lesson. Something every day happens in that lesson, because that morning lesson from Israel is an open channel. It is an open request. It's when the one time during the day where you pick up the receiver and the channel is open directly to the intention behind that light to develop us. And it's very important that we prepare ourselves for that. And what you're doing now is you're preparing to have this experience, so that these things that are changing in you now, you understand that they're all part of this thing that flows from the law, the general law of the universe, through an open and willing and agreeing intention or heart on the part of the creature, which is this group playing this game, and that's what study actually is. And it flows from morning lesson to morning lesson, and it really carries the real headline of where humanity is. It's the real news. Let's take a look at the comment from last night's lesson with Rob Lightman, and we'll see how it really is connected to everything that's happening with us today.
I have a hard time putting things into the right order. What environment are we talking about? Because I look at the screens, I see Toronto, New York, Peter, Moscow. This is the environment from which I can get the greatness of the goal, buy yourself a friend, envy, lust, honor. On the other hand, there's the inner environment, the environment I have to connect to, the souls. How do I get the greatness of the goal from souls? What is a soul? What do you think? What do you imagine as a soul? Is there something besides a deficiency? No. A soul, it means a deficiency for unity, a deficiency for love. I imagine the environment as the connection of the points in the heart. They want to connect. try to connect, are in some tendency towards connection. If I refer to them the way they are, I really see them as connected. If I'll connect to them, I won't need anything else. Inside there I have the arvut, inside there I have the kli and the light and the confidence and everything. This is how I have to appreciate the society on the one hand. On the other hand, okay, I imagine them this way, but where is their influence over me? As if I have to demand. To which extent should I demand? As much as I want to get from them, I'll demand. So I have to yell at them, talk to them? No, I don't even have to talk to them. It's enough for me inside my silent, mute desire, from my inner cry. I get out of them like Rabbi Yossi ben Kizma. I get out of them all that I need. The Creator, He brought me here. Somehow, He told me, take this. I take it. How do I take it? I try to get into their internality because He has brought me actually to the Malchut of Ein Sof, to the Malchut of Infinity.
To the Malchut of Infinity, to the connection, complete connection with what actually is, as opposed to the dream of the will to receive, in which we are all completely separated. There's a question here from Kim, and she asks, does the evolutionary process ever end? There is a point called the end of correction, in which we actually make this change on a permanent basis. It's not the end, but it is the end of a personal correction, in which the system now can function, all of it, within the law of nature. But what's really different about it is that it doesn't just function like the animals do, who naturally, mechanistically, they work like angels. They're like pure machines, and they work within a system that is all bestowal. We don't. The only way we can work is not the way that they do, which is by instinct. We have to become that. We have to agree with it. So, yes, we continue to evolve, and there is a kind of a much higher world. This is something that we don't speak about, because it's not possible to speak about it anyway. But it goes from good to better to best. And coming up at the quarter hour, we will be going to the third part of the morning lesson. In order to get something from that, we need to ask for what we really need. We have to ask ourselves, why am I going into the lesson? Why am I playing this game with these friends? Oh, it's a cool game. But what is the expectation that I have here? Do I really want to change? Do I really want to feel a connection? Do I want to know where I'm not connected so that I can be connected? What do I think can happen here? We've come to a place. The Creator has brought us to a place, and there's a door before us. What do we think is on the other side of the door, and what do we want from that? When a person feels that this is possible, really possible, that they've come to a good place, and that they can actually achieve this thing, this deepest thing in their heart, that's the sort of preparation that's necessary. Bring the confusion, bring the pain of not being able to find it, bring your excitement and desire. And then you'll get something out of the lesson. Now, we'll deal much more with this as our shows go on. We'll show you some of the other systems that are being built to connect people all over the world to play this game with all of humanity. And you, friends, are the heroes of this generation. You are the generation that is going to take humanity to the place that we have always been working towards. We're going to break through that barrier into a globalized kind of love within our heart that touches everything. Now, let's prepare for the lesson. Cobb TV. Watch your life make sense.
If man in this world wishes to exist in harmony with the general law of the universe, he is bound to change and adapt himself to it. The cause of all suffering in the world lies in our opposition to this general law.
Therefore we must ask, why then did the Kabbalists obligate each person to study the wisdom of Kabbalah? Indeed, there's a great thing in it, worthy of being publicized. There is a wonderful, invaluable remedy to those who engage in the wisdom of Kabbalah. Although they do not understand what they're learning, through the yearning and the great desire to understand what they are learning, they awaken upon themselves the lights that surround their souls.
are as apples. Their interior is eaten and their exterior is thrown away, as the exterior is completely worthless. You find that all the worth and importance are only in the interior, the insides. So is the matter with legends. The apparent superficiality seems meaningless and worthless. However, the inner content concealed in the words is built solely on the bedrock of the wisdom of truth, given to virtuous few. We would dare extract it from the heart of the masses and scrutinize their ways when their attainment is incomplete in both parts of the Torah called Pshat, the Drush. In their view, the order of the four parts of the Torah being with the Pshat, then the Drush, Remez, and in the end the Sod is understood. However, it is written in the... Both parts of the Torah called Pshat and Drush, in their view, the order